It's time to power rank the NFC, not just the NFC in total, but by division, 1 through 4 in each division. Do we have any worst to first, any potential disappointing teams in the NFC? And will chaos ensue this year in a really wide open wild card situation for NFC teams? Coming up on today's Peacock and Williamson.
NFL analyst Brian Peacock and former NFL scout Matt Williamson bring you expert NFL analysis every day in less than 30 minutes. Get an inside look into the NFL on the field and in the front office. With elite breakdowns, next-level analysis, and in-depth information only for the real NFL fans. This is Peacock and Williamson, and it starts now.
Welcome to the Peacock and Williamson NFL Show. Brian Peacock alongside Matt Williamson. Thanks, everybody, for making us your first listen on the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day. Big ups to the everydayers out there. Subscribe up on YouTube and everywhere you get your podcast. Today's episode of P&W is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Last-minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. All right, it's time to power rank the NFC, Matt. Let's start east and move west this time. We started west with the AFC, so let's start on the other coast here with the NFC and go to the NFC East, which is the powerhouse division on paper coming into the season.
Yeah, I think these are two of the best teams in the conference for sure. I'm not quite ready to put the Cowboys over the Eagles at 1, but I'm a little more open to it than I was, at the end of last year. I don't love McCarthy, but I love like the Gilmore and Cooks pickups, and I think Dallas is, got a deep offensive line, a deep enough offensive line, but Philly's just so strong up front on both sides of the ball. I think the quarterbacks are almost a wash. I know people think that Hurts is way above Dak. I don't feel that way. But I think you got to give the slight nod to the Eagles. But I don't love that they lost both coordinators, both linebackers, both safeties. I mean, there's a little bit of stuff that's up in the air for them.
I'm going to go Dallas Cowboys 1 in this.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
And it was actually, you think about how good the Philadelphia Eagles were. They were 14-3 last year, right? But the Cowboys were 12-5. And Dak Prescott going to throw 17 interceptions again? He might throw 10, right?
No chance. Yeah.
He might throw 7, might throw 4. I don't know if he's going to go Aaron Rodgers with his touchdown to interception ratio, but I do expect a better Dak Prescott this year. I like what's around him a little bit better this year. I think the Cowboys got better, and I think the Eagles got worse. Not so much because they don't have a ton of talent, and the Philadelphia Eagles could run the table. They're a great team right now, but I think the Dallas Cowboys have the best defense in the NFC.
Yeah.
And I think the Eagles' turnover is where I think they'll have some at least growing pains. And maybe it will, shake itself out by week 2 or 3 and they're fine, But does it slow start? Are there some things? It's just so much changeover. And we see it time and time again for good teams, and they get poached and they get poached. And as long as they got the quarterback head coach thing right, they're going to be fine. I'm not projecting them to go first to worst or, collapse or anything like that. But I do think Dallas improved. I think the Eagles have some work to do to figure out so much changeover for their team. And does Hurts sort of the plexiglass theory for Hurts, right? The ascension has been so awesome every year. Does that plateau? Does it kind of come down a little bit and then come back up? Does does the league figure out how to play against them a little bit better? So I don't feel like it's even that hot takey, to be honest with you. Things change year to year. Give me the Dallas Cowboys 1, Philadelphia 2 in the East.
Yeah, and you can only play who's on your schedule. So, but this is a fact. The Eagles had a very easy run, including their playoff games, what happened to San Francisco's quarterbacks, et cetera, et cetera. That doesn't mean they didn't deserve to go to the Super Bowl, folks. Chill. Yes. But it won't be that easy this year. And why I'm even saying that is I can't imagine, and I'm sure we can figure this out, but I think they led the league by a pretty wide margin of coming out of halftime with a lead. Well, that's how you get to 70 sacks. You know what I mean? Like, it's just rush the passer at the end
Right.
of games. That probably won't script out that same
Yeah,
way.
their sacked pressure ratio was insane.
Mhm.
There's a lot of reasons why there could be some regression there, and it's not even regressing to being bad. It's just not quite
little.
as amazing a season as they had.
Yeah.
They had a nice run.
A lot of things aligned for them outside their control, but that's what you're supposed to do is mow those people down. They did.
And this is the other teams in their division got better too. So
I agree.
instead of being 14 and 12 wins, it might be 12 and 11 wins or 11 and 10 wins for the Cowboys and the Eagles, and still have really good seasons.
So I think we both agree that Dallas got better. I don't know if the Eagles got better. Like Jalen Carter's great, but Hargrave's not there. Like
there's projection in if they did get better, there's projection there, and then they nailed a lot this happening and things come together quickly. Like losing both coordinators by itself.
Huge.
Not even talking about Hargrave and some of the other pieces they lost on the football team, on the roster. That's tough to overcome sometimes.
Absolutely. So to round out the East, I actually think this is a coin flip too. Like this division is 2 and 2. I don't think Washington's terrible. I think Howe might be serviceable. I really like their weapons. I think they'll run the ball pretty well. And led by that D line and a couple rookies thrown in the sprinkle in the secondary, that might be the 10th best defense in the league. I'm still giving the nod to the Giants, though. Slightly.
I'm right there with you. Does the plexiglass principle apply to the New York Giants where they improve so much?
Maybe
under Brian Daboll. And I love Brian Daboll, but can they do that same leap again is the big question. And that'll be them competing with Dallas and Philadelphia instead of competing with Washington, maybe.
Yeah. And I give Daboll all the credit in the world. And free agency time, I knew you were really down on Daniel Jones. Man, this was, should they give him money? Should they give him the extension? Blah, blah, blah. And I liked him more than you did then. But the more research I've done on Daniel Jones, and I don't know if we've even talked about him in the last month, I'm worried about him. I mean, I don't think they're going to be happy with that contract.
I agree. I think the way it's structured, they can get out of it. It doesn't look as bad as what the initial numbers were there for Daniel Jones. But yes, they have to do a lot more in the drop back passing game.
Exactly.
A lot more.
I mean, he's closer to Fields in development than he is Hurts.
Yes. Yeah.
You know what I mean? Yeah.
He was treated that way. That's he was like, okay, well, here's Daniel Jones. Let's treat him like Lamar Jackson. And that's the best we can do for our offense, right? That's
great coaching. It wins games, the
is.
NFC that gets you in the playoffs. I still have them slightly over Washington just because I think their development's a little further along. And I didn't say great things about Jones, but I think you still have to give him the nod over Howe on August.
It's just so unknown with the quarterback position for Washington. Like, how could you? Yeah. It's just so hard to, and maybe Howe turns into a star, and you're like, okay, cool. Then wow. But right now, you have to put him 4, I think, because of the quarterback and because of how that could possibly look.
Agreed.
Next, we've got the NFC North. Can we?
We're gonna fight on this one, I think.
You want to fight on the North? Well, let's go south then. Let's go south first. Can we come up with the number 1 in the South quickly?
Saints.
I think it has to be the Saints, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't think they're great, but I think they're like the definition of a league average team. And that's
we've got the
good
Saints.
enough.
We got the Saints 1 in the South. Let's go through the rest of the South, and we'll hit North and West. And which team would knock off the Saints if a team did knock off the Saints? Are there any surprises? Are there any big disappointments coming for some of these franchises in the 2023 season? And maybe some worsts to first. Next. Today's episode of Peacock and Williamson is brought to you by FanDuel, America's #1 sports book. Some very special offers right now from FanDuel for some bonus bets and NFL Sunday tickets. So get ready for the NFL season with incredible offers from FanDuel, America's #1 sports book, because right now new customers can bet $5 and get $200 in bonus bets guaranteed, no matter what happens on that initial $5 bet, win or lose. Plus, all customers who bet $5 at FanDuel will get $100 off NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. So no better place to get ready for that 2023 season. Now is the best time to join FanDuel. The app is easy to use, it is safe, and you can bet on everything from spreads to player props and more. And I love those tasty parlays at FanDuel. Just visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and kick off the NFL season with an offer you won't want to miss. FanDuel, official partner of the NFL. Okay, Matt, NFC South. I think we both easily put the New Orleans Saints 1. Is the reason there for you just stability at quarterback and you kind of know what you're getting?
Sort of. That, along with this team's been pretty stable in terms of winning over the last decade. You know what I mean? That's the Steeler in me, that teams need to learn how to win. I'm not saying the Saints are a powerhouse. They're not the Patriots. They're not the Chiefs, of course, but they've been very relevant now for quite a while, especially in that division. Cameron Jordan, guys that have been around the block. I think there's something to be said for that. These guys all have played very easy schedules. I just wanted to throw that out there, but we're not talking about wins, losses. We're just talking about how good are teams right now. And I think they'll take advantage of some bad teams more so maybe than Atlanta, Carolina, and Tampa will.
Are you all the way out on Baker Mayfield, just like being a good starting NFL quarterback? Because there's still some talent on that Tampa Bay roster.
I know.
Godwin and Mike Evans at wide receiver. Rashad White, we'll see what he ends up being at running back. I don't think either one of us are super high on him, but some ability there. Kalijah Cansey, the first rounder next to Vita Vea. That's just going to be funny to see those two guys standing next to each other. And they need to figure something out on the edge, right? With some edge pressure there, but you still have Lavonte David and Devin White. Shaq Barrett's still there as well, coming off the outside, and Carlton Davis and Antoine Winfield, Jamel Dean. Like there's some talent on this roster. To me, it's all about the frenetic sort of quarterback play of Baker Mayfield. Is it going to be better than what we saw from the Tampa Bay Buccaneers last year? Because I don't think that you should sleep on this team. I just don't really know how this roster is going to come together because it looked so bad last year.
I know. And so I initially looked at this division and went Saints, Falcons, Panthers, Bucks. Bucks are going to be terrible, blah, blah, blah. And I have drank the Kool-Aid on the Falcons. I think they're going to be hard to play against. They'll run the ball really well. And I'm not a Baker fan. But I'm also not certain Baker's going to be the worst quarterback in this division in 2023. I mean, he still might be. I mean, would I feel better about the Falcons if they had Baker instead of Ritter? Maybe, as much as they're going to hand the ball off and all those things. And you mentioned it, they probably, if we just classify who are the stars on every team in the NFL, does Tampa have the most star power in the division? David and White and Vea and Evans and Godwin and Wirfs and, they still have some dudes.
Right. Yeah.
So I moved them to 3 as opposed to 4, but I couldn't get them to 2.
I've still got them 2. I've got them 2 after New Orleans. So mine is Saints, Bucks, Falcons, and I think all 3 of those are still going to be really tight. And then it's the Panthers 4 for me, just because the lack of talent on offense. And it was promising seeing Bryce Young. I just like his, he's really calm in the pocket. I like the poise he showed in his last preseason game, but there's not a lot there for him to throw the ball to. But he's, he recognizes that, and he's smooth in the pocket. His subtle movements, and they can get out and scramble and make a play. I don't know if he's going to get killed because he's going to, not have a lot of clean places to throw the football, I think, this year. So I think there's going to be some struggles, but I don't even know if they're going to be that far behind. But I've got to put Carolina 4. Yeah,
the more I thought through it, I just think Tampa has more guys I can count on. I think Carolina's in for a long year, but it might be a profitable year when you think big picture. I wish the O-line looked better in the preseason. I do think the Panthers defense, that's something you and I have talked about pretty glowingly over the last year or so, shouldn't slip up. I mean, Burns and those linebackers and Horn should be pretty decent. I just think they're going to be on the field a lot. and asking a lot from that defense. And I don't think it's an elite defense.
Here's a question for you: are they going to have at least one winning record in the South this year? Last year,
oh yeah,
at 8-9, the Bucks won the division with the worst point differential in the division. They were minus 45. All four teams were minus point differential on the year. The Panthers, Saints, Falcons, all 7-10. So only one game separated all four teams.
I think there will be two teams with a winning record, and I'm strongly predicting taking two teams to the playoffs because their schedule's so bad. It's really that bad, especially for the Falcons and Saints. You know, like those Sando quarterback tiers. They played Rodgers, Lawrence, and no one else. You know, like it's so I think that stuff matters.
So does that mean you think the NFC North is actually a worse division than the South potentially?
No. I mean, if they played head-to-head, or if we were to rank those 8 teams, I think the AFC, I would still have more weight on the North than the South. But I think the North is the most overrated division in the league right now. I'm not sure there's a contender in the North either.
Do you think they're rated highly? I don't think anybody.
I don't know. People seem all psyched about the Lions.
That's true.
Chicago's going to make a big step this year. And I mean, I don't think anyone thinks Minnesota's a 13-win team again, but I don't think anyone looks at them like they're a 6-win team either.
The Minnesota Vikings are an odd one because we talked about how things went well for the Eagles. It went even better for the Minnesota Vikings.
Yeah, rare.
They are not going to win 13 football games. They were like a Danielle Hunter trade away from maybe having the worst defense in the entire NFL.
Yeah, and I don't think they're far off from that. And they're making a scheme change, and they don't have the corners to play press man and all that stuff. I think their offense will be really good, and they might outshoot some people, but the running game wasn't great. They're clearly third for me in this division. I mean, I went the Bears last. I bet you didn't put the Bears last. I put the Vikings 3, and I put the Bears last.
I put the Vikings last.
Okay.
And the Bears third.
I get it.
Yeah.
I put the Packers 1.
I put the Lions 1.
I know everyone in the world's putting the Lions 1, and I understand it. The two young quarterbacks I'm pretty much all in on right now is Jordan Love and Kenny Pickett. I think those guys are going to be legit dudes this year. And I think that's enough for Green Bay to slightly.
If you believe that, you have to put Green Bay 1.
Yeah, exactly. That's my thought process.
Well, their defense needs to play a lot better than it did last year. They have the dudes. You look at them on paper.
Their first-round picks everywhere.
Right. So the Green Bay, and their quarterback's the first-round guy. And they've got a lot of talent at wide receiver. It's young talent, though. That's the one thing I don't like about
young on offense.
Together is there is a lot of development, and things have to go really well there on the offensive side of the ball for the Packers. That's why I've got Detroit 1, Packers 2. I've got Bears 3 getting out of the cellar. And if Fields does even more than just improve and becomes a star, then I think the Bears can win this division. I think this is going to be really tight. The Bears would probably have to do something at the trade deadline, though, to help out, still some holes that are on that roster. But I don't know if Kirk Cousins and the Vikings are just going to roll out there and put up 40 on people every week. That's how worried about their defense I am for the Vikings. And look,
none of these defenses are particularly good.
A little nicked up Justin Jefferson or a nicked up Kirk Cousins, and that could be a real spiral bad for the Vikings. Yeah.
No, I don't disagree with that. I will concede that the gap between number 1 and number 4 is probably the tightest in this division out of any of the 8.
I expect this one to be tight too, which is why I like the ability for a team to potentially go worst to first here. And we see it happens every year, and you never really expect it fully. So is this the one? I don't know. Because I don't think it's going to be the next division.
I have 3 Lions concerns, though, too. I think they're a weapon short, especially with Jameson Williams out for 6 weeks. I mean, it's St. Brown and then rookies that might be okay, but they're rookies.
And remember, their defense.
That's another one. I don't think their defense is fixed.
It was not a great unit last year, and it looked a lot better in the second half. And so some things really need to go right with all of these teams.
Yeah, my 3 concerns with the Lions are they're weapon short. The defense is a little better, but not in the top half of the league. And dealing with expectations is hard, and everyone expects them to win the division, and they've never won anything in my life.
This is the chaos division.
A little bit.
Mm-hmm.
I don't see a contender in this division.
I could buy some contenders, but again, things have to go right.
Okay. I have a feeling your West is going to be kind of a boring.
I think the West is boring. We'll get to them next because
Yeah.
I think there's just a few things that are there are a few things that there's not enough variance to really have as much fun as there might be in, say, the North and the South. We'll get to that next.
Yeah.
Today's episode of Peacock and Williamson is brought to you by Game Time. Buying tickets to your favorite events should not be stressful. With killer deals on last-minute tickets and their best price guarantee, you can stop stressing over the tickets and start getting hyped for the fun you will have at any event. Game Time is the fast and easy way to buy tickets for all the sporting events, football included, NFL football, music, comedy, theater, any event you're looking to get tickets for, you can find them on Game Time. Flash deals and last-minute tickets available at Game Time. You can get images of your seats as well before you buy, so you know exactly what to expect when you arrive. Buy tickets in a matter of seconds, 2 taps, and you are set. Tickets are sent directly to your phone, so you never have to dig through your email ever again to find your tickets. And the Game Time guarantee means you'll always get the best price. If you find tickets in the same section and row for less, Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference. So download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. The NFC West. I think there are some major talent gaps in this division. And I think it's which division that I think it was the East that we talked about. It was 2-2. And I think it's really that way in the NFC West as well. I just think the 49ers and the Seahawks, top to bottom, have so much more talent than either the Arizona Cardinals and the Los Angeles Rams, as witnessed by the Cardinals claiming 6 guys. They led the league in waiver claims. They just added guys that other teams didn't make the 53, and they were going to try to put them on their practice squad. Those guys made the 53 for the Arizona Cardinals without even going through camp with them.
I'm glad you brought that up, because remember earlier in the week we talked about like the Dobbs, McCoy weirdness, and them picking up 6 guys further affirms what we were saying is we're moving. I don't want that couch. Like I just want new people here. I don't know if they're better. I just know they're not you. I saw you loafing around here, losing, whatever. You got to go bring in somebody else. That's just the feel I get for that whole organization. And then tanking is a crazy word, but their quarter. I mean, I used to think Tampa had the worst quarterback situation in the league. It's not even close. I mean, it's not even close right now. I mean, Arizona is a distant last. You know
who the best insider is as far as the NFC West is concerned? That's Matthew Stafford's wife, Kelly Stafford. You remember last year she was talking about Stafford's arm and how it was, hanging on by a thread. Recently she was speaking with, I'm not sure who she was speaking with, as a podcast or in an interview somewhere. And to be honest with you, Sean McVay and the Rams probably don't like her spilling secrets and things, but
it's not a good look. I know where you're going with this. It's not a great look. Yeah.
She said that that Stafford has been struggling to gel with the young Rams offense and finding it hard to connect with his teammates. So,
well, I heard a step further is that the PR department gave him like a booklet with face and names because he doesn't know the people on the team. I'm serious. I mean, I can certainly understand that with the defensive turnover they have. I'm sure he knows his O-lineman and things like that, and Cooper Kupp and Puka Nacua.
He probably doesn't know a lot of the defensive guys, because I don't know a lot of the defensive guys either. And I've got a list of the names in front of me.
Exactly. So I don't know if they could still, all that being said, I don't know they could be worse than the Cardinals.
The Cardinals roster is that bad, and at least there's hope with the Rams roster. But both of these, you could see either. I would not be shocked at all if either the Cardinals or the Rams earned the number 1 pick in the NFL draft.
No, and I would almost bet that they both are picking in the top 5. If the Rams stay healthy for I don't know, until Thanksgiving. Maybe they'll have the 10th best offense in the league. Kupp will be catching 10 balls a game. Akers running, lines okay. Stafford's playing well. McVay schemes it up. That's like the glimmer of hope I could give, and then, or his elbow starts hurting him 3 weeks from now and they totally shut him down. They never win again. Like that could help. That could happen too. And Donald gets traded at the trade deadline. Whatever.
Yeah, and I'm looking at, so if things go great, that means the stars were the stars with the Rams. Kupp, Stafford, Donald, and some of these other young players developed. And I think they even have an opportunity to have an okay offensive line. They got the second rounder Avila to go with Note Boom at left tackle, Havenstein at right tackle, Brian Allen at center. So some veterans there. It's going to be an amazing line, but they could be okay there. And with Cooper Kupp and Van Jefferson.
That offensive line was the most injured since Football Outsiders started tracking injuries, which was like 1980.
Although, by the way, did you see that they cut Logan Bruss, their third rounder from last year?
Yeah, I was a little shocked by that too. When we were talking about surprising cuts, he was on the tip of my tongue.
Yeah, we didn't get to him, and he had an ACL his first year, so red shirt, and then can take a while to come back from that. And they had seen enough. They don't think he's going to be the guy. So I don't know if it's a knee problem or. But didn't give him a lot of time either because they could use the depth.
They actually traded for Kevin Dotson, who was the Steelers starting left guard last year, and he very well might be a starter for them. It was one of those late round pick swap type of deals, and he might be a starter for them. That's where they're at. It's rough. But I still think they're three. I'm not sure they're three in many divisions. But
you look at the Cardinals roster and maybe offensive line's their best spot, to be honest with you. But Marquise Brown, I have not liked what I've seen from him really in his NFL career. Like he's kind of living off that name and the first round pick. He just doesn't get open. He's fast, and that's about it. So even when Kyler Murray comes back, that's the question: did they win too many games to get the number one pick? But this is going to be a bad team. It's a bad roster.
I'm not certain Kyler comes back at any point. Why is it worth it to put him back there if you're lined up to get Caleb Williams and rookie head coach with zero quarterback? That's like a 2-win team.
You're right. So we're working backwards here. Got to put Cardinals last, Rams 3. And then I don't know. Am I too homerish to say the 49ers?
No, you're not.
Are 1. I think they got one of the best rosters in the NFL. As long as quarterback works out, they're going to be in good shape. Can Geno Smith do it again too? So there's still a little question with quarterback and a really nice roster they're building there with the Seattle Seahawks. So Niners, Seahawks, Rams, and Cardinals, which was how it ended last year for that division.
So we've been hard on the NFC North, the NFC South, the AFC South. I think I would put the Rams last in all those divisions. That's how bad this could go. Like behind the Colts, behind Houston, behind Chicago, behind Tampa.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I would put anybody in the South. I'd put the Bears. I'd put Washington, New York. Yeah, I'd put everybody at least third in this division.
Really, if they weren't in the Cardinals division, they might be last in every other one. The more I think it, like them versus the Raiders, them versus Houston. They're that bad.
So your vote, if somebody goes worst to first in the NFC, it's the Falcons in the South?
Absolutely. I think they have almost a 40% chance of doing it.
Yeah, the competition's a big part of it.
Right. And the schedule. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm going to go. My brand right now is the Bears, and I might regret all this with Justin Fields and the Bears and stuff, but I'll go Bears.
I think it's possible, especially consider there's not a Niners or Cowboys in that division.
Yeah.
You kind of said this, so I just want to have a note on Seattle. I really like how they team built. I don't have a lot of reservations about Geno, but really he was really, really good for 10 or 12 games, and then he was fine. And I still think their roster has 2 or 3 more holes than you'd like. Interior O-lines, okay. Tight ends, okay. Pass rush isn't great. They could use one more good offseason.
Any potential disappointments in this division that you see? And this doesn't have to be, a great team becoming terrible, but who just might be, the fan base is like, this is going to be a cakewalk, and it's not as easy as it looks.
San Francisco.
Yeah, I was going to say the 49ers as well. 49ers led the I think the NFL in point differential.
Oh, they did. They did.
And, they've got some difficult parts of their schedule. They got some easier parts of their schedule, but it's still a small sample size with Brock Purdy. I loved what I saw from him. I think he's going to be in that, at least that Cousins sort of Garoppolo tier of quarterback. So I don't think it's going to be a problem, but we still don't know. And he's coming off that elbow injury, and he's actually taking it easy this week with his arm. So like, does he have arm problems coming into the year? He did come back very quick from that UCL. And is he really as good as he looked down the stretch? And I don't think his numbers are going to be as amazing as they were down the stretch. He was one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL for that stretch of games. So what does that look like? And then, Christian McCaffrey's a running back. He could get hurt. Bosa's still not signed. There's the whole Trey Lance thing. I think there's a cloud over. There's just really weird vibes for the 49ers coming into the season. This could be a team that starts a little slow. And they have kind of started slow the last few years. Some doubt could creep in. Could things get weird for the 49ers? They're expected to be one of the top 2-3 division teams in the conference, and I would bet that they are that. But I think of the teams that have the most weirdness, I think it's the two teams that were at the top. It's the Eagles and the 49ers for different reasons. The 49ers on paper are still a really good team, but the Eagles lost some pieces, and so that's why I kind of am a little bit bullish on the Cowboys this year.
Yeah, I hear you. I think I would put Dallas and Philly over the Niners for all the things we just mentioned. And we could write these stories for every team. What if Mahomes gets hurt and Kelsey gets old?
Right,
blah, 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 blah. Of course.
Yeah.
But the Bosa thing is real. McCaffrey, Kittle, Debo aren't exactly pillars of health in their career, And I also think, I'm not saying he'll get bad, but Trent Williams is old. And he is he might be the most important Niner.
He misses. Bosa's easily the most important Niner to me.
Yeah,
but Trent Williams is pretty important, and Trent Williams has only played a full season twice in his NFL career, and those were 16-game seasons, and that was in Washington before he became a 49er. Like, he's going to miss games. He misses 2 games every year, and he's kind of not hardly done anything this whole offseason, really. So they're trying to keep him as fresh as possible.
For example, Steelers Niners in week 1. I just wrote a preview for it and saying, well, Trent Williams will race Highsmith, and Highsmith's a good player, but the other 4 have to deal with Watt, Hayward, and others, that's challenging. But if by chance you don't have that Williams erases Highsmith part of it, I don't want to play Dallas, Philly, Pittsburgh, guys that have dudes up front minus him. I know the scheme helps.
And if we're asking the question a different way, let's say using last year's win-loss, who gains the most wins and who loses the most wins, I would go to the North for both of those. And I would say the Bears 3 wins gets improved the most. And I would say the Vikings 13 wins gets, and obviously there's going to be some Vikings fans coming after me because,
but that screams regression.
Yeah.
I mentioned to start the show, the Eagles played like the easiest schedule in the league. Well, the Niners were neck and neck with them.
Niners did have an easy stretch, especially for that end of season stretch where they went crazy, and there was like a 5-game stretch where like basically nobody scored on them. It was
amazing. They won 12 in a row. They're a really good team, but I've been doing so much Niners work that if you look at final DVOAs, they ended up with the easiest schedule in the league when it was all said and done, knowing what we know after the fact. So
could be chaos in the NFC, Matt. That's why things are so different year to year. If you replayed any season, 16 is such a small sample of games. If you played any season over, I think you'd be shocked by how different the results are. So for sure, when you play a new season with a new schedule the following year, we're shocked every single year. We think we know how it's going to go. I think the NFC is going to be a lot of fun.
I do too.
Thanks everybody for making.
I didn't see the Giants as a playoff team this time last year. You know what I mean?
That's very true.
Or Seattle for that matter.
Yeah. Geno out of nowhere. Like there's going to be a Geno Smith. There's going to be someone who then maybe Geno Smith goes back to being someone who's not starting caliber as well. That could happen.
Seattle's going to go with Drew Lock or Geno Smith. Are they insane? That was my thought this time last year.
A team with a 3rd-string quarterback to start the year is in the NFC Championship game. You know what I mean?
Right. Crazy. Is Hurts going to take a step? That was a storyline 1 year ago.
And we've seen Josh Allen. We've seen Hurts. We've seen a quarterback every year take a big step. Who's going to be this year?
Good stuff.
Yeah, a lot of fun. Thanks, everybody, for making this your first listen. Subscribe on YouTube and everywhere you get your podcasts. Talk to you next time right here, Peacock and Williamson.